Y'all showed up, huh? We were a little worried because 5:30 people getting off and stuff. But before we dive in, I just want to say thank you. I'm almost teared up a little walking in. My family's here and friends and classmates I hadn't seen in a long time, and students and alumni. Are there any students in the audience? No students? Okay. I spoke at the journalism school's centennial back in February, and it was a room full of students, and it was super exciting to just see how the J School has grown. And having been on the alumni council, Black Alumni Council before, and being so involved at USC, it's always an honor to come out and give back. So thank y'all for taking the time to be here, especially in this hot Columbia weather. I did not dress appropriately, but thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. So this presentation um, is not just for those that are here, but it's also going to be on the USC YouTube later. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to share my story. I think that USC is an amazing place, and so much of who I am, I discovered while in school. And so I just want to take you through that journey of what I did at USC and how it brought me to where I am today. Sound good? And do we have Q&A at the end, or you want to do it throughout, or?
It is totally up to you.
Okay.
Q&A at the end.
All right.
If questions come up and someone wants to raise their hand or go ahead and shout it out.
All right, cool. Sounds good to me. I'm super relaxed and casual, probably a little too casual, so we can just dive right in. Okay, so a little about me. I was born and raised in South Carolina. How many of you have heard of Pineville, South Carolina? Okay, a little bit. All right. So Pineville, South Carolina is like this big. I went to Cross High School. I graduated number 9 of 57 students. The high school we had no middle school, so it was 7th through 12th grade, about 400 students. So really small school. Came here to the University of South Carolina, graduated with my bachelor's, later got my MBA from the University of Georgia. And I spent most of my career in advertising and marketing. So I started off, and we'll talk a little bit more in the career page, but at the Greenville News, worked in print, worked through broadcast, and then got in corporate and marketing, and I continued to build my career there. I am currently an entrepreneur, an interior designer. I am a content creator, a product creator, and have a lot more exciting things coming that I'll share too. And then a little bit about me, things I like to do. I love to travel. I love to eat, and um, more than anything, help people love where they live. Okay, so 20 years ago, I was a freshman at USC, which sounds crazy to say because I'm going to have my high school reunion, 20-year reunion this year. I'd missed the 10 years, so I just cannot believe how quickly that went by. But to kind of set the tone, when I was a freshman at USC, I was so excited to be here. And again, knowing where I came from, a very small town, I thought USC was like just the biggest school that I had ever been to. I toured at Clemson, and I was like, can't do it, because it was country and small, like where I was from, and came to USC, and I just felt like invigorated, so excited. Like, this country girl has made it to this big school, and Harbison and Columbiana Mall felt like Rodeo Drive. Like, I just was so excited to be here in Columbia. Of course, I had family in Columbia, I had family in Greenville. My mom was in the Low Country, and my sister was at the College of Charleston. So it was a nice distance away from everybody, but still like have my own space and still be able to go home on the weekends and do laundry if I wanted to. So at USC, I was super involved. Freshman year, I lived in Patterson Hall, 40 girls to one bathroom stall. It was all female at the time. I think it's co-ed now, right, Patterson? Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's co-ed and has suite style. And then I got involved right away. I was involved in the Association of African American Students. I was on their freshman council, then secretary, then vice president, then president when I was a senior. I was a resident advisor in West Quad. So West Quad opened the year I was a resident advisor there. So I was a RA in A building and then in B building my junior year. I was a university orientation leader. Um, the list goes on. I did a lot of things. I also worked at Longhorn on Gervais and did some other things on the side in addition to my extracurriculars. And then my junior year, I pledged JKA with the Theta Gamma chapter, and I interned my senior year. So had a lot of honors and leadership awards. Um, the Greek Leadership Award, the Hall of Leaders. If you go to the Russell House on the second floor, there's plaques of the Hall of Leaders. So my name is on there. And then as a part of the journalism school, I was awarded with the American Advertising Federation's most promising minority students. And as a part of that, they sent all of the winners to New York for about a week. First time on a plane, first time in New York City. Actually, no, second time on a plane. But first time in New York City. And when I was there, I met tons of corporations, including Gannett, who I started my career with. This is really sensitive. Sorry. Okay, so college to corporate. So Gannett owns tons of newspapers, TV stations across the U.S., and they just happen to own the Greenville News. And so when I started at USC, I was originally a print journalism major. I wanted to write. I love to write. I could not wait to write for Essence Magazine or Wall Street Journal. Like, that's what I wanted to do. And then I visited the state newspaper with some students, and everybody looked sad, and I was just like, I don't know if this is for me. But ironically, my first job ended up being at a newspaper, the Greenville News, and I fell in love all over again with journalism and the circulation and just the newsroom. People had been working there for decades, and even though the timing of it all, 2008 was pretty scary, right? Every quarter there were layoffs, circulation was down. It was a really scary time. It was good to be amongst people that just loved journalism. And so I sold advertising for the Greenville News for 2 years, stayed with my grandmother for a few months, and then got my own apartment in Greenville off Pelham Road. And after 2 years, decided I wanted to get some more experience, and I went into broadcast. So that took me to NBC in Atlanta, where I was selling advertising and broadcast for 2 years. Got my MBA, and that led me to San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio, the second largest employer there is USAA. The first largest employer is the government. So a lot of military, very family oriented, but completely different atmosphere than Atlanta, which is like bustling, and it was like a slower pace. But at USAA, I was a part of their leadership development program, where I was able to do different rotations in real estate, social media, banking, mortgage, and then ended up in credit card before I left. At that time, I like to call it quarter life crisis. Like, every 2-3 years, I was just kind of like, oh, do I want to do this? I'm not sure. And so there were some things that I was doing in banking at USAA, which was very aligned with the fintech industry. And so that led me to San Francisco, California, Silicon Valley, where tech is everything. Google, Facebook, you name it, a lot of the tech and the things that we use every day was born there. So I worked for a startup called Earnin, which is in the fintech space, and then worked for a firm, which if you're not familiar with the firm, it's like buy now, pay later. So say if you want to buy this sofa from West Elm, You don't have the $3,000 today. You can pay by payments and maybe zero to no interest over time. And so I was on the consumer team for the product marketing, and it was a good time. It was great. We actually ended up IPOing, which became a publicly traded company while I was there. It was the pandemic. It was nuts. But during that time, they said, okay, everything's shut down. You all can work from anywhere. And so, me living in San Francisco, paying $3,000 a month for a 450 square foot apartment, it kind of made sense to like come back to the East Coast and be closer to family. And that's what I did. I packed my stuff up and I went back to Atlanta. So, in the midst of all that career, in 2016, when I bought my house in San Antonio, I decided to create a blog. And that blog was called Blessed Little Bungalow. The reason I created Blessed Little Bungalow, well, one, when I moved into my house, I'm a crazy person, so I moved in the same day I closed. And I unpacked everything within a week, decorated the entire house, and then my mom and sister came to visit with my nephew. And then two of my friends from college and high school came to visit, and they were just kind of like everything staged to perfection, pictures on the wall, rugs laid out, like perfect. But I had only been there a week, so they were coming expecting to help me unpack. And my mom during the visit said, okay, well, when are you going to do this for real? And when she said that, it kind of stuck with me. It's like, okay, yes, I have this career, this marketing career over here, but this is an opportunity for me to have a creative outlet here and have a hobby. Like if I'm bored in what I do and feel unfulfilled in any way, the creative aspect that is pumping inside my body, like I can get that out through this. So the intention was never to make money or be an entrepreneur. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur or work for myself, but my mother always saw that in me. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm not about to quit my job because I'm making a lot more money than I was at the Greenville News. So let me at least do this on the side. And at the time, I was paying off my student loans and other consumer debt that I had. So any money that I made from the business, I just saved to pay off that debt and to, just have a nice little nest egg. So, Blessed Little Bungalow, my first client was in San Antonio, Texas. Well, no, I take that back. My first client was actually a gift to a friend that went to Clemson. Him and his wife were having their first baby, and I did their nursery for them as a gift. And then my first paid client was in San Antonio, Texas. And then brick by brick, I just helped more and more clients over time. So I was doing this on the side, nights and weekends, while working in corporate full time. And then year two, 2.5, 3, I moved to San Francisco and I was still helping clients from near and afar. The biggest reason I started Blessed Little Bungalow is because I just truly believe that interior design should not feel stuffy. It should not feel like something that is meant for the privileged few only. It should be available to all. And by me sharing my home and how I decorate it, in addition to how I'm helping other people, here you might be able to buy this $4,000 sofa, but here's how to pair it with these $30 pillows from Target and make it beautiful and feel collected and lived in. And more than anything, your home should make you feel good. It's a safe space. And so I wanted to share that through Blessed Little Bungalow. And over time, the following got bigger on Instagram and the clients got bigger. And then with the following comes the brand partnerships, and Home Depot's calling you and saying, hey, can you put this reel together and we'll pay you X amount. And so it really was one project at a time, but it was also something that kind of snowballed once I got my confidence going, and so much so it made me on year 5 think I can do this full time. I am making great money in tech and I have a career ahead of me. But if I don't necessarily want to be the CEO or CMO of these companies, and I can use just 10% of my time to build what I'm building here, what could I do if I put 100% of my time and truly bet on myself and did this full time? And so in 2021, that's what I did. So I've been a full-time interior designer, content creator, and now product creator for 3.5 years. It's been a really fun road, but it's also taught me a lot about just like the difference between being an employee and working for someone else and building someone else's dream and building your own, and what that looks like, what it feels like to pivot. And honestly, I'm a bit of a procrastinator. I found out, okay, well, when I'm the boss, I'm not the best boss. I'm not the best employee. So it allows you to really have some self-awareness and understand, like, okay, if I'm going to bring other employees in and hire them, I don't want to bring them into chaos. I want to stand on my mission and the brand I built. And everything I learned up until this point in marketing and the J School at USC, like, it prepared me for building my own brand. And so I think when, like, I was in an event in Atlanta last night for small businesses and entrepreneurs, it was probably like 700 people in the room. And then after the event, having people come up to me and recognizing me, like having that brand recognition is like so humbling, because it really started with just an idea and me wanting people to feel good in their own home. So I don't take that for granted at all. So what am I doing now? So here are just a couple of the accomplishments and things that I've done so far. So Blessed Little Bungalow has been published in a lot of magazines. This one up here, HGTV, May 2023. This is my guest bedroom on the cover, and they did a spread in my home, which was so crazy to say out loud, but super exciting, because when I did my first photo shoot at my house in San Antonio, I didn't have like swatches or anything to props for those pictures, but I had a stack of HGTV magazines. And so that is in several of the pictures that I started with. So to be in the magazine now is like crazy to think about. I launched a wallpaper collection last November. Mitchell Black, they are a Black female-owned wallpaper company based in Chicago, and they sell directly to trade and also to individuals, individual consumers, B2B and B2C, but they also distribute through Wayfair, Paragold, other Anthropology, other companies directly online. So I have 6 patterns that I created with them. Most of them are like an ode to my low country roots and Black culture. So it's super exciting for me to be able to actually sketch and work with the designer to figure out, like, okay, I love sweetgrass baskets. Let's create some sort of pattern that mimics that, but is modern and has some funky colors. And so that is one example of one of the patterns that I created. And then the one I'm sitting in front of is Gentle Giraffe. I love giraffes. It's my favorite animal. And a fond memory for me is for my 33rd birthday, I went to Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, and was able to feed giraffes at their boutique hotel there called Giraffe Manor. And so I wanted to have some wallpaper. If I was going to do animals or anything kitty, it had to be giraffes. Those are some examples. I've done a lot of interviews. So this house tour, that was with Homeworthy. In 2 weeks, I'll be headed to New York. I partnered with Real Simple magazine. They have an event they call Real Simple Home, where they choose a property and then they bring in like 3 to 10 designers to design each space. So I was one of the 7 that was selected. I designed the laundry room. It's a brownstone in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and it's going to open on the 9th. So that was a big deal and super exciting. And then just some of the brands I've worked with: Sherwin-Williams, Amazon, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, all the things. Okay, so why am I sharing all of this? What is this? What is the point of any of this? As shown in one of the previous slides, like, my path has not been linear. I had no intention on being an entrepreneur. When I went back to school for my MBA in marketing, I had no intention of going into that entrepreneur class and thinking I'm going to have my own business. Um, I did not go to school for interior design. There was a lot of points along the way where imposter syndrome and fear crept in and said, girl, you can't do this. Like, who are you fooling? And 8 years later into Blessed Little Bungalow, it still kind of feels like that. It feels like, oh, well, like I got this email about this huge construction project in Gwinnett County, Georgia. And I'm just like, well, I'm not qualified for that. I can't do that. I didn't go to school for that. And so there's still so many moments where I feel like I'm just getting started and things are just beginning. But there's been a lot of lessons. I feel like every place I worked, from Longhorn on Gervais to West Elm part-time when I was working in marketing, USAA, the Greenville News, like every place I've been has been intentional and had a purpose. People I met, things that I learned, and also still, this is not the end all be all. Like there are other things that I wish to do. I'm currently working with a company in New York to produce soft goods, so bedding, um, curtains, drapery, things that you decorate with, like to get them on the shelves in your Targets and Kohl's and so on. And so the long game of that, like it could take a year to produce, but there are things that I learned along the way with licensing, with my wallpaper, with my artwork and home goods that have prepared me for that moment. And so here I just listed a few things that I've learned along the way, along with some pictures of that journey. Is my dad sitting right there? But some of the things that I will share: authenticity is your superpower. I truly believe that. Like, who you are is what people can love my work and love the pretty pictures of my spaces, but they want to see the face behind that. They want to know who created it, what was the reason you picked that thing, and more than anything, your story. Like, being from the journalism school, obviously storytelling is everything. How you craft a story, how you tell the story of who you are. This room that we're sitting in, why did they select those chartreuse curtains? Why did they add this wainscoting to this wall? The green banquette that's built in the back, the brick that was probably restored or was originally here. Like, there's a way you can go about telling that story no matter what industry you are in. And so the foundation of being in the journalism school and learning those things, I've been able to tell the story of like who I am and the brand that I represent because of a lot of those foundational things. And honestly, I'm not, one thing I learned working at the Greenville News is I hate sales. I don't want to sell anyone, but I'm working in advertising sales. What do you mean? But you learn about the customer. You learn about so Greens liquor store. This is random, but they were a client of mine in the Greenville News, and they did a lot of community things, and they had a bigger story to tell besides just this bottle for $16.99 in the newspaper. And so learning about the owners and talking to them about their customers and learning about what time of year they want to push this and holidays, the wine for this, like learning people's story and being able to tell them is the easiest way to build connections. So I try to do that with my products for my interior design products, but also when I walk into a client's home and they want my help, like I can make anything look pretty, but tell me about your family, your upbringing, what you and your husband do for a living, the kids, like why are we going to select this performance fabric sofa versus why maybe you don't like bar stools. Like, you have to have those conversations and talk to people in order to best tell their story and make them feel comfortable and love where they live. Few other things: boundaries. Oh man, as an entrepreneur, you would definitely need that. Be willing to ask for help, fail, and begin again. So right now I'm in a period where burnout kind of hit, and I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll just quit this and go back to work for someone else. Or maybe I just won't work with clients anymore and I'll only focus on the products. But, ego says, no, just keep going and do what you do because you've earned this spot. But the opposite of that is saying, I did this and I did it well, but I could probably do it better. Or I could take a break and do this over here. So don't be afraid to pivot. Don't be afraid to learn new things. There's a lot of conversation about AI and how it's disrupting a lot of industries, including interior design. So learning about AI, like writing this client's home description for my new website and using ChatGPT to help me articulate something that's in my head that I can't get out. So there's a lot of things that we can do to continue to evolve and be better and better serve our clients by being willing to pivot. And then the last thing I would say is like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. I truly believe that. That's what keeps me going. And regardless of your religious affiliation, I feel like knowing that God is in control and He has me in the palm of His hand, I know that I'm going to be okay. And there is no failure. There is just trying and trying again. And I do my best to support and encourage other entrepreneurs to do the same. And people that come to me and say, hey, I like interior design, but I don't know if I should do this. Like, it's important for us to share that knowledge, but also encourage each other, because 8 years into this, it's still a struggle, but there's been some exciting moments, and I'm just so grateful to share that with the world and share that with you all. And then this last slide is just little Amber to current Amber. So elementary school, high school, college, grad school, and then the evolution of BLB here at the end. And this is not the end of the journey. This is just what it has been so far. But I'm excited for what's to come. I feel like I'm really just getting started, and by embracing my passion and understanding that there is no limit to, like, anything we want, we can have. We have everything we need. If you have an interest in one thing, like, tinker with it, like, see where that goes. And I am a true example of that. So thank y'all so much for allowing me to share my journey, and go Gamecocks. Questions? Yes. Chloe.
How do you think that your education impacted like what you do now, your business?
So the question was, how do I feel like my education has impacted my business, and how I approach things? I think just getting to know people for who they are. When I worked in consumer marketing, it was all about user-centered design, meaning the user, whoever's using this application, whoever is buying this product, they are at the center of our marketing strategy. And so you could talk sales funnels and different logos and taglines, but like, who is your customer? So we really learned that in the journalism school, but like in all of my marketing positions, it's all about like all of the demographics and understanding like who is the person that we're trying to serve. So for example, at USAA, a lot of people don't know this, but a big part of the military community goes through divorce, and they go through divorce at an early age. So if we are trying to sell financial services products and educate them on how to protect those dollars and open a checking account and open a mutual fund, like, we need to understand the psyche of that person that's 23 years old and just had a divorce and have two kids. Same thing with my products with the tech company. If someone wants to buy this furniture because they're moving, but they can't pay for it all at once, like, what's going to give them peace of mind? Having payments with 0%. How can we craft a paragraph on our website that connects with that person? So getting into the psyche of them, and that's something that I think if you're selling anything, if you're marketing anything, it's super important to know and to exercise. Yes, ma'am.
So, have you had a request from a potential client that you'd probably say, I don't want BLBs behind that? And how did you approach that?
Great question. So has there ever been a client that was not a good client fit, pretty much? So when you're starting out as a side hustle or building a business, period, you're just so eager to get business. Like you're anybody that's interested, I want to take them on. And then if you add this social media element to it, like you don't want, like I'm a people pleaser as a person. Like I'm a Virgo. We're very feely. We want people to feel good even if they don't like us. And so I'm super sensitive to how people feel. And so, like, I had a consultation 3 weeks ago, and halfway through the consultation, like, the couple was lovely. They were a referral from a previous client, but it just wasn't a good fit. I just felt like the thing with an interior design, no matter how affordable I want it to be for clients, it's a cost, it's an investment. And so it's my job to educate them on those costs. And if they don't have those dollars, or more importantly, aren't willing to give up control, like you have this antique bed. I don't think it's ugly, but I don't like it, right? If you love it, great. However, these other things you're asking me for, I have to alter to go with this bed. I have to limit, the creativity to fit this in. And so there's a gentle and direct way of sharing that, but like some people do not want to relinquish control. They want a designer, or they think they want a designer, but they really just want a project manager. They want someone to do the thing. So in the consultation, in those conversations, I have to like look for those red flags and figure that out. And a lot of times it'll lead to a no, but honestly, anytime I have not said no, when I had like that gut feeling, I've always regretted it. So all money isn't good money, and all clients aren't good clients, but it takes practice to realize that, and to get over that hump and have the courage to say no. Because if you say no to the wrong things, you have room for the right things. Yes, ma'am.
How did you get your target audience to find you on your social media?
So how did I get my target audience to follow me? So my first followers, so I have about 135,000 followers on Instagram today. When I started with like 700, it was just friends and family. Like, I'm doing this thing, follow me. And over time, I think between the algorithm and me serving clients and people sharing my work, also me as an individual, Black woman, millennial, likes colorful things, likes mixing patterns from the South, like that attracts certain people too. So it really was like a gradual process. I never really sought out to like look at me, follow me. It happened over time. But now with brand partnerships and certain things, like for example, there might be a brand like Pottery Barn that I want to work with, but their target audience is not my audience. My audience is 25 to 45, and they're looking for 55 to 65. It's okay to not be a good fit because of that. So I one thing that they say in business, but also in marketing, is like, if you're attracting everybody, you're attracting nobody, right? So I want to have my ideal audience follow me, and I think it's definitely evolved over time, but it's definitely a good match.
Sure. Okay, so can you talk about the product design process that you went through with designing the wallpapers?
Yeah. So first, I before the wallpaper came, there's this company called Gallery 57 that followed me on Instagram. They saw that I loved gallery walls and I have a lot of artwork in the projects that I design, but also my client projects. And she just emailed me. She just said, "Hey, I love your work. Have you ever thought about designing your own artwork and having them in stores?" And then, I do my little Googles and I'm like, oh, I know, I already recognize the name Gallery 57, but they do a lot of white label things for different companies too. And so they usually work just directly with artists, not necessarily interior designers. Like there's this company called Cupcakes and Cashmere. I don't know if y'all heard of before, but they were interior design and then they um, sold their own products and now they're like in TJ Maxx, Target, etc. But they're more of a product brand now. Jungalo, who Justina Blakely, she's in LA. She has products that are in Target, but she started selling them on her own first. But although she's admired in the interior design industry, she's an artist first. She paints. She was a photographer. So a lot of products end up that way. It's like centered on the person, and then it grows into the product line. And so knowing those stories, I was excited to work with her. And then once the POs started coming in, the purchase orders for the artwork in Home Goods, Ross, World Market, uh, Ross, I'm missing one, HomeSense, which is mainly in California, but I mean, not California, Canada, but also in some of the Northeast. Um, I had already used the Mitchell Black wallpaper from other designers that they had collaborated with, and what they designed themselves. Um, and I just posted when I used their product. And so one thing I think that people don't realize is like you might not get a response from some of these brands, but they see you. They're watching. They're looking to see how you're using things and how you're doing that in an authentic way. And so they had been watching me for about 2 or 3 years, like using their product, tagging them every time, and just seeing my design style. And so um, there was an opportunity for me to um, design Michelle Williams' home, Michelle from Destiny's Child. Um, and I had reached out to them about some of the products. But before that even happened, they asked me if I would ever be interested in designing my own wallpaper. And I'm just like, of course, let's do this. So we got on a phone call and talked about it. And I was at Michelle's house at the time with the first conversation. And I didn't know anything about licensing. Like, you think, oh, I'm going to make this product and they're going to sell it and then they're going to give me a cut. But what does that percentage look like? What should it look like? For different types of products, it should be a different number. So after working with my PR agency to negotiate the cost, the licensing agreement, sign those contracts, we just got to work. I got on a Zoom call with their lead designer, and I had already, because I'm over prepared and so excited, already created slides of mood boards. Like, okay, I want one botanical one, and then I love these colors, and I want to do something geometric over here. So I had all these ideas already on paper, and they had only intended to do like maybe 2 or 3 prints with me, but because of my, I guess, over preparedness, they were just like, oh, we could probably do 6 to 8, because I guess they partner with designers and they don't know what they want to do. So they were excited about that. So yeah, we narrowed it down. I think there were like 12 prints, and then we ended up narrowing it down to 6. And based on the success of the first collection, we'll have a second collection. The really cool thing about the partnership too is that they are not they do not completely own. It's like partially owning the actual designs that we created together. So with this bedding line, if I want to take that same giraffe print and put it on sheets, I can do that. So having my trademark already with Blessed Little Bungalow and having a lot of those legal things in place, it helps me like build on that empire. But yeah, it was a really cool experience, and my dream is to have pillows in Target and more items to offer to the masses. So that was a great start on that path that I have ahead of me. Yes, ma'am.
Yesterday, my mother happened to be looking through the magazine Real Simple
Okay.
and saw your picture, and she said she was so excited she almost dropped the magazine.
Oh, yeah.
But my question is, how do you line up with the magazines or platforms like HGTV, Real Simple, and all of the other outlets, media outlets and whatnot?
So it's funny because being in the journalism school, one of my best friends, Ashley, she lives in Dallas now, but she works in PR, and she was a PR major, change of advertising, but ended up still working in PR. To me, PR was just, oh, we're going to do this benefit and we need to write a press release and send it to the newspaper, right? But PR is so much bigger than that. Like, so I have a PR agency that helps me. They basically pitch me. Like, that's their main job. So I just photographed this beautiful home in Athens for a client. Here are all the final pictures. Here's the before pictures. And I hand it to them with the story of the family. And then they say, okay, let's go to Southern Living. Let's go to Domino Magazine. Let's go to Good Housekeeping. And then they will, through their connections, send that out to them. And it's a lot of no's. It's a lot of, no, it's too colorful. And, oh, it doesn't include the kitchen. Like, there's a whole science to it. And the interior photography, like, when I first started out, aside from taking pictures on my phone, started working with photographers and understanding, like, there's a difference between a portrait and lifestyle photographer and an interior photographer, and even difference between a real estate photographer and, like, what that looks like. So they're looking for specific things in these interior shots, like, well, why can't you see the sink in this kitchen shot? Why do this? So it's like a science to it. But because their specialty, the PR agency, is interior and architecture, like, they know all those things. So they can give me feedback too and say, yeah, the Arch Digest is never going to take pictures from you if you keep leaving the lights on in these photos. Like, there's little things like that. Like, they want only direct natural light, or when the photo editor, like, takes out all the outlets in the pictures. And even when you next time y'all pick up a magazine and y'all see interiors, like, just like notice things like certain photos or artwork being brought down a little so it's at eye level. Like, there's all these things. So anyway, I share that to say my PR agency, I started working with them maybe 2 years ago. So, like, as I started leveling up, I outsourced, like, that help instead of me knowing, like, okay, sending all these things to individual editors. They help me with that. Same thing with my partnerships. So Sherwin-Williams, we were already on each other's radar because I would tag them on everything. But, like, when they finally reached out to say, hey, we would love to work with you on X, Y, and Z, and this campaign, we can pay you $16,000, and here's what we want in exchange. They can come in and say, okay, well, Amber's rate is this because she has this following and she does this, and she doesn't want to do an individual blog post, but she wants to do this. So they help with that negotiation and figuring out, well, one, if it's a good fit. Sherwin-Williams, I use them every day, so it was, but, like, how best to work together. So originally was doing it on my own and could totally do it based on my background because I felt like working for brands, I already knew, like, what a lot of them were looking for, but those connections through the PR agency are definitely invaluable. Yep. Hi.
How did you know which PR agency to choose?
They came to me. There aren't a lot of PR agencies specific to interior designers. It's truly a niche. And I had been kind of, like, looking at some of the more popular ones before. And what ended up happening, I just got on a call with their president, and we talked, and there were things that I was looking for help, but also wanted to make clear, like, I don't need someone to run my social media. So it's like some interior designers, they want nothing to do with social media. They don't even like having pictures taken of themselves. They want to be like completely behind the scenes. So there were certain things that they offered that I didn't need to pay for, like, or I didn't feel I needed. Um, but over time we've grown together. Like, they know like not to pitch me to Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles. I've done their show house before. I've worked with them and liked the magazine, but they're really super traditional, and that's not really my style. So it's a relationship like anything else. Like, we kind of did a first 6-month trial, and then after some success, like the HGTV magazine spread of my home, they pitched that for me. HGTV mag I had been in before, so they already knew who I was, but they hadn't seen my entire house. So like those relationships and some people can look at PR or any agency or think like, oh, that's not a good use of money. But as you grow, your expenses, certain things you pay for as a business, it gives you time back. And they've been a great fit. Yeah.
Another question. How did you learn the technical skills like with painting and hanging up pictures?
Yeah. I mean, I like that stuff. I like to paint. I love gallery walls. It's so crazy how people are just afraid to put a nail in their wall. Like, I'm like, just put the nail in the wall. Just put it up there. Just hang it. If it's crooked, we'll fix it. Like, but people have a lot of fear around, they think a lot of things are permanent. But paint, yeah, it might be $40 a gallon, but you paint that room. If you don't like it, paint it again. Like, and so that's something that I was already doing with my own home. More of the technical things, like, so general contractors, like I have 4 different wallpaper installers in Atlanta that I'll use. I have handymen, electricians, like this wall, how it has the wainscoting on it. I have like accent wall people that do that, custom drapery. One of the things I had on the screen was community over competition, because I really feel like actually less than 2% of all interior designers in the US are Black, right? And of course, it feels like there's a lot in Atlanta, but we are only as strong as, we help each other and connect with one another. And so there was a client I had that wanted to lime wash a wall, and I didn't know any lime wash people. So I reached out and said, hey, who do you know that does plaster and lime wash? And so there's a lot of, one thing I can appreciate, there's not a lot of gatekeeping in the community, not just Black interior designers, but in the interior design community in Atlanta in general. It's like very unifying, and people, like, they want us all to grow. Like, what's the phrase, rising tide raises all ships? Like, it's very much that. And so what I don't know, I learn by mistake, or they're doing, but there's also, for me, I feel like I'm a forever student. Like, so if I don't know this thing, then I need to learn it. It's important to know, or I outsource it. So renderings and sketching and so things like that, like, that's something that I can easily hire out. I can learn and do it myself, but what might take me 7 hours to do, it takes someone 30 minutes to do. So it just kind of like you pick and choose what trade you wish to invest in and what you wish to outsource. That's everybody? Okay.
How many clients will you take on at one given time?
Oh man. Okay. So there was a time I'd have like 25 clients at once. It was insane. So as an e-designer, like, I'm providing mood boards and shopping lists for a client to execute themselves. So if I live in California and you live in New Jersey and you want to work with me, but you're not necessarily trying to pay me to go back and forth, like, I'm giving something to you for you to execute on your own. So when I was doing a lot of that, like, it was high. Ideally, like, I'm hoping to take Q4 off to like reset and do a little sabbatical. So I'm not taking clients right now. But I probably have like 6, like, they're at different stages. One were like pre-construction, and the others are like, okay, we're just waiting for this final end table to come so we can stage and photograph it. but ideally, I would say the sweet spot would be like 2 to 3 clients a quarter, so I could really focus on them, especially if they're in Atlanta. I think moving back to Atlanta, like I can not take clients outside of Atlanta. There's just that much business and interest there. Um, but I still work with clients from afar. Like I have a client in San Diego that I'm hoping to visit before the end of the year to take final pictures and stuff. And we started maybe in the spring. So depending on the project, I'll still work with people from afar. Hey, Dad.
Hey, in what specific area do you feel that you have matured the most in your business?
That I have the what the most?
Matured the most. Wrong.
That's a good question. Um, I feel like I've got so much growing to do. Like dealing with clients, um, the industry is constantly changing. Like your Rolodex of trade, like, because there's a lot of, like, you see, like, the crate and barrels and the pottery barns and things you can buy retail, but there's a whole nother world of, like, trade only items. Like, you cannot, like, maybe this chair you can't order, like, as a consumer. You have to go through a furniture dealer or a trade only person to purchase. So there's, like, endless new showrooms to go to. I've gone to High Point Market and spoken there several times, but there's like 10,000 showrooms in High Point, North Carolina alone. Like there's so many more people to meet and things to learn, and this new fabric, and just like fashion, every fall there's something new. So constantly learning there, but I'd say maturing the most, I think, my confidence in, because for a long time I just allowed fear to dictate how I operate my business. Like me taking this quarter off is terrifying, but I have to know like what's for me won't miss me, and this is time that I need to rest and also explore more of the product things that I want to do, because honestly, I haven't had a lot of time to just think. I'm a busybody. I always have been. I'm a recovering overachiever and perfectionist. Like I'm just always in 18 different things. And it took a long time to realize like that's not healthy. Like it's okay to be slow and soft life and all of that. Like it's all right to slow down. And so finally realizing that, and not just realizing it, but doing it, I feel like that's very mature for my 38-year-old self. Well, 38 next month, but yeah.
I noticed one of your points was take time to play and dream.
Mm-hmm.
What does that actually mean?
Exactly what it says. Like I went to Montana last week before last, to just do nothing, to sit and hike, and there were so many ideas that I thought about, like, and journaled about while I was there. I think you can get so busy just doing things and running from task to task and client to client. So much so, like, somebody will be like, "Oh, what are you doing next weekend?" I'm like, I can't think about next weekend. I'm just thinking about today. Like, um, but hiking and traveling, like travel, I've been inspired so much, like in my interior design work, with places I've been and things I've learned, different cultures and colors. Like I went to Morocco last March, and just like the amount of rugs and lanterns and just igniting of all the senses with their spices and the colors of the Medina and the hustle and bustle, like to be able to just be there and be present, and then allow that to, well, I never thought about having a lighting line. I really like that lantern I saw in Morocco and Marrakesh last year, like being able to just sit there and think with a clear mind. And so that's the dream part. Play is, as adults, who said, like, we were such in a rush to grow up, but we really need some time to play. Like I have so many friends that are like learning how to play tennis. Like I want to take swimming lessons again. I've had taken lessons like 2-3 times in life, but I always allowed the phobia to keep me from doing that. um, there's just so many things that I want to try and tinker with. I used to paint. I don't do that anymore. And run. I used to run long distance in high school and enjoyed running, but like making time to just do that and explore some things that you used to love. Because really, that's how Blessed Little Bungalow was birthed. Like, I loved looking in my grandparents' homes and seeing the wallpaper on the wall and how the pillows were mixed. There was no plastic on the sofa, but there was like a lot going on with the pillows and things. And so having an admiration for that and liking to clean my room and rearrange the space, like, our childhood, there's a lot of things that we rediscover as adults are like, oh, that might be something I want to do. So that's what I mean by taking time to play and dream. Yes, my dear.
What would you say has helped you overcome imposter syndrome the most?
So I think it never goes away. It's always present. Um, but it's like hearing the voice, like doing it scared, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. But one thing that's helped me overcome it or look past it is kind of dangerous because you see, like, the press like makes you feel like, oh, I have this validation now. I've been in this magazine. I can do this. But then it's also like you don't want to live by the applause because you'll die by the booze or whatever they say. But the validation of being published and be a national brand and like all of that helps quiet that noise of you don't know what you're doing. Like, okay, so I don't know what I'm doing here, but I can learn it. I have the courage to try and fail. Um, the event I went to last night in Atlanta, they just talked about how like the most successful people are not afraid to fail out loud, right? Like there's a lot of billionaires, multimillionaires that their first business or two or three failed and they kept going. And so like seeing that as an example, it helps me like, okay, girl, if you don't know what you're doing, you can figure it out. Like we're all just out here figuring it out. So that's one thing that helps. Okay. Hi.
Hey. So as entrepreneurs, I know we have a tendency sometimes to be a little opportunistic, and you spoke on that earlier when it came to the types of projects that you say yes and no to. And I was just wondering if you had a process for saying yes to a project, even if it may not come with the financial, expectations, it might not meet your expectations, or do you strictly stick to if it's not meeting what my standard is, then I'm not working with it. I don't care if I'm designing a home for Michelle Williams or not. If it,
Yeah.
how do you go about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I do my best to treat people as people. I'm a human too. I make mistakes. Um, as a big piece of interior design, especially a lot of the clients that I work with, they're like first generation of generational wealth, or they are, it's their first time home buyer, or they're blending families and they have their in-laws living in the basement. Like it's some kind of life event, it's some kind of change. And so I try to be sensitive to that and just learn as much about them as possible. But I also want to be realistic with them. Like, you want to redesign this basement and you have $40,000 to do so. Well, this $40,000, like if this is the project, this is how far it's going to go. So what are the things we can prioritize or take away? Or should we just revisit this in a year after you have more time to save, or do like a HELOC or take, money out as a loan? Like I arm them with the information to make the decision. And then also as entrepreneurs, like I started out wanting, like, interior design should be affordable. Like everybody, I'm serving everybody. But like if you're serving 10,000 people with an item that costs $1 to make $10,000 a month versus serving 500 people to make whatever the math is, you know what I mean? Like you're not as spread thin, you're not as burnt out. You're able to truly serve and give them the attention they deserve. And at the end of the day, a business is a business. The price is the price. Like I don't walk into Chanel and expect to pay the same for a bag that I got in Target, right? So it's like setting the expectations about what things cost, and then what should be a priority. Like they might have seen this thing and they love it, but it may not work for their home, or it might not be like you've got all these kids running around, but you want this white carpet. I mean, there are performance fabrics and things you can do, but like, is that smart? You know, so it's all a conversation. And I think the right client, they understand, and if they can't afford me at the time, they come back. Or I am all about referring people. So there are a lot of interior designers that have minimums, like you have to spend 100,000 on this project. You have to. We don't do like just a bedroom and a bathroom. We have to do the whole home, or we have a 4 space minimum. I don't have those high minimums, but if I had a certain minimum, I may refer them to a interior designer that doesn't. Like so, I try my best to help them, even if I can't help them personally. You're welcome. Well, this was amazing. Thank y'all so much. I drove 3 hours and I had 3 hours of sleep, but I was like super excited to come. And I'm an introvert naturally. I get nervous about these things, but like I shared with the alumni team, like this feels like home, and I'm just so excited. And it helped that my family was here too, although that was a little more pressure. But I appreciate you all for coming out on this hot evening and spending it with me. And thank you. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, like I said, go Gamecocks. Thanks.